Before we dive in, let's be crystal clear. This presentation is for informational and educational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, and the content in this video is not a substitute for professional business, legal, or financial advice. The examples discussed are based on publicly available information and case studies, but every business is unique. Always consult with qualified professionals before making any major technological or financial decisions for your company. There's a quiet panic happening inside thousands of American companies right now. It's not the kind you see on the news. It's the low, constant hum of anxiety in a boardroom, the exhausted sigh of a project manager staring at a mountain of data at 10 p.m., the frustration of a brilliant engineer spending half their day writing documentation instead of, engineering. It's the feeling of being perpetually behind, of running faster and faster just to stay in the same place. Consider David, a marketing director at a mid-sized logistics company in Ohio. For the last 2 years, his life has been a blur of spreadsheets, performance reports, and an endless soul-crushing cycle of creating content. His team, talented as they were, was drowning. They were trying to personalize campaigns for a dozen different customer segments, analyze shipping route data to find marketing opportunities, and draft internal communications, all while keeping up with the fire hose of social media. They were burning out. The company's growth had stalled, not because their service was bad, but because their operational capacity was stretched to its absolute breaking point. They were stuck in the mud, and the competition was starting to lap them. Then 6 months ago, their CIO rolled out a new tool. There was no big fanfare, just a memo and a series of optional training sessions. The tool was called ChatGPT Enterprise. First, David was skeptical. Another piece of software? Another subscription to justify? Another password to forget? He'd seen the hype online, the funny poems, and the college kids cheating on their essays. He couldn't see how a chatbot was going to solve his deeply entrenched real-world business problems. He was wrong. Dangerously wrong. This isn't just another video about a cool new tech toy. This is a critical briefing for anyone who works, manages, or owns a business in the United States today. We are in the first inning of a technological revolution that is fundamentally rewiring the DNA of American workplaces, and ChatGPT Enterprise is its engine. What happened to David's team is not an isolated incident. It's a preview of a massive nationwide shift. In this video, I'm going to break down the 5 specific seismic changes that this technology is forcing upon American companies. By the time we're done, you will understand exactly how this tool can become your company's single greatest competitive advantage, or, if ignored, the very thing that makes you obsolete. You will have a clear, actionable understanding of how to leverage this power, not in some distant future but right now. Let's be honest about the stakes. The pressure on American businesses has never been higher. We're facing persistent inflation, a hyper-competitive global market, and a relentless demand for greater efficiency. The old playbook of just hiring more people or working longer hours is broken. It's not sustainable. Companies are being asked to innovate faster, personalize experiences on a massive scale, and make smarter data-driven decisions in real time. It's an impossible task for a human-only workforce. This is the core problem that ChatGPT Enterprise was built to solve. It's not about replacing humans. It's about augmenting them, about giving them superpowers to overcome the very challenges that are causing that quiet panic in offices from Silicon Valley to the Rust Belt. We're going to go on a journey through the modern American corporation. We'll start in the marketing department just like with David, and I'll show you how it's not just writing ad copy, but creating entire hyper-personalized customer journeys automatically. Then we'll move to the software development team, where it's crushing development timelines by acting as a tireless junior coder for every single engineer. We'll even step into the legal department, a place notoriously resistant to change, and witness how it's reviewing contracts and performing legal research in minutes, a task that used to consume days of expensive billable hours. The fourth way will surprise you. It's about how it's completely reshaping employee training and onboarding, creating a personalized tutor for every single employee in your organization. And the fifth is the big one. It's about strategy, about how it unlocks a level of data analysis and strategic foresight that was previously only available to megacorporations with armies of analysts. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You've heard the fears. It's not secure. Our company data will be used to train the model. It's going to take our jobs. It makes mistakes, it hallucinates, we can't trust it for serious work. These are valid concerns, and we are going to tackle every single one of them. The enterprise part of ChatGPT Enterprise is the key. It's the answer to the security question with a guarantee that your data remains your data, period. We'll dissect the difference between the free version you play with and the hardened industrial-grade tool that companies like Block, Canva, and the Estee Lauder companies are deploying. We will cut through the media hype and the dystopian fear-mongering to give you the ground truth. Because the real risk isn't that AI will take your job. The real risk is that you'll be outcompeted by a person or a company that knows how to use AI effectively. This technology represents a fundamental shift in the nature of work itself. For the last century, the value of a knowledge worker was in what they knew and what they could do. That era is ending. The new era values a different skill. The ability to ask the right questions, to direct powerful tools, to synthesize AI-generated insights into brilliant human strategy. It's a move from being the person digging the ditch to the person directing a fleet of automated excavators. It's about amplifying your intelligence, not replacing it. Let's go back to David in Ohio. The first thing his team did was feed the AI every single piece of performance data they had for the last 5 years. They asked it one simple question. Based on this data, identify our top 10 most profitable, but underserved customer microsegments. Within 90 seconds, it produced a detailed report that would have taken his team 2 weeks to compile. It identified a segment they had completely overlooked: small-scale manufacturing companies that needed last-minute freight services on weekends. It was a goldmine hidden in plain sight. Then they elevated their game. They asked the AI to act as our chief marketing officer and draft a complete, multi-channel marketing campaign targeting this specific microsegment, including email sequences, social media posts, and even scripts for their sales team. It generated the entire plan in under 5 minutes. David's team didn't just copy and paste it. They used their human expertise to refine it, to add the nuance and emotional connection that only they could. They went from drowning in tasks to directing strategy. They were finally ahead of the curve. Their burnout turned into excitement. Their stalled growth reignited. This single shift, this one application, is just the beginning. It's our first stop. So let's break down the first and perhaps most impactful way ChatGPT Enterprise is changing American workplaces: the death of generic marketing and the birth of hyper-personalization at scale. For decades, we've been living a lie. The lie of personalization. You know what I'm talking about. That email that starts with "Hey, first name," and then proceeds to offer you a 10% discount on a product you either just bought or would never ever buy in a million years. That's not personalization. That's a mail merge. It's a cheap party trick that stopped being impressive around 1998. Companies have been sitting on mountains of gold: your data, your purchase history, what you click on, how long you look at a product, what's in your abandoned cart. They have all this information, but for most it's been like owning a library where all the books are in a language they can't read. They can group you into crude buckets: customers who bought shoes, customers who live in California, customers aged 25 to 34. This is segmentation, not personalization, and it's why marketing has felt so broken, so disconnected. You get ads for lawnmowers because you once bought a single bag of potting soil. It's clumsy, it's inefficient, and frankly, it's annoying. Now imagine a different world. Imagine a small, direct-to-consumer furniture company. Let's call them Oak and Anvil. They make beautiful, handcrafted pieces. They have a loyal customer base, but they're competing against giants like Wayfair and Pottery Barn. Their marketing budget is a rounding error compared to the big guys. Their team of 3 marketers can't possibly write custom emails for their 50,000 customers. So they do what everyone else does. They send out a weekly newsletter. Check out our new fall collection. It works okay, but it's not a sniper rifle. It's a shotgun blast, and they hope they hit something. Enter ChatGPT Enterprise. This isn't the chatbot you used to write a funny poem. This is a different beast entirely. Oak and Anvil securely connects their customer database to their private instance of ChatGPT Enterprise. All that data, the purchase history, the browsing behavior, the support tickets, is now ingested and understood by a massively powerful intelligence. The library is no longer in a foreign language. Now let's look at 2 customers. First, there's Jessica. The system sees that Jessica has bought a minimalist white oak coffee table, 2 linen throw pillows in neutral colors, and spent a lot of time browsing Scandinavian-style armchairs. She's never clicked on anything dark, ornate, or traditional. Then there's David. David bought a dark walnut bookshelf, a leather club chair, and has repeatedly viewed industrial-style bar carts. He's clearly building a home office or a den with a classic, almost masculine vibe. In the old world, Jessica and David get the exact same email. Check out our new fall collection. In the new world, powered by ChatGPT Enterprise, something magical happens. The AI doesn't just see segments, it sees individuals. It functions as an army of 1 million hyper-intuitive, world-class copywriters working simultaneously. Jessica's email is generated on the fly. The subject line reads, "Jessica, your dream reading nook awaits." The email body doesn't show the entire fall collection. It shows her one item, a new light maple floor lamp with a simple, elegant design. The copy, written by the AI, reads something like, "We know you appreciate clean lines and natural light. We designed the new Oslo floor lamp to perfectly complement the minimalist aesthetic of your white oak coffee table. Imagine it next to a cozy armchair, creating the perfect, serene corner for your next book." It even pulls in a customer review that specifically mentions the lamp's calming, Scandinavian feel. David's email is sent at the exact same moment, but it is a universe away in content. His subject line, "David, the final piece for your study." The email showcases the new industrial bar cart he was looking at, but also a set of crystal whiskey glasses that just came in stock. The AI-generated copy says, "A distinguished space needs a finishing touch. We saw you were eyeing the Edison bar cart. It's built to be the centerpiece of a room, just like the leather club chair you purchased. We've just added these hand-cut whiskey glasses, the perfect companion for a well-earned drink after a long day." This is not a mail merge. This is a conversation. This is a company demonstrating that it doesn't just want your money. It understands your taste. It understands the story you're telling through the things you buy. And it happens at infinite scale. It's not just for Jessica and David. It's for all 50,000 customers. Each one gets a unique, one-to-one communication, crafted in milliseconds. The AI can even test thousands of subject lines simultaneously, learning in real time what resonates with each specific user profile. But it goes so much deeper than email. When Jessica visits the Oak and Anvil website, the homepage she sees is different from the one David sees. The hero image for her might be a bright, airy living room. For David, it's a sophisticated, wood-paneled library. The product recommendations aren't based on what's popular. They're based on what would complete the room you are currently building. The product descriptions themselves can even change. For a new dining table, the description Jessica reads might highlight its sustainably sourced, lightwood construction, while the one David reads for the exact same table might emphasize its robust joinery and ability to host a dozen guests for a formal dinner. This is the death of generic marketing. It's a fundamental rewiring of the relationship between a business and a customer. Before, the burden was on you, the customer, to sift through a company's entire catalog to find what you want. Now the burden is on the company's AI to understand you so deeply that it only shows you what you already wanted, maybe even before you knew you wanted it. For a company like Oak and Anvil, this is a revolution. Their conversion rates don't just inch up, they skyrocket. Their customer loyalty becomes unbreakable, because their customers feel seen and valued in a way they never have before. They are no longer competing on price or ad spend, they are competing on intimacy. And with ChatGPT Enterprise, they can create that intimacy at the scale of a global corporation. The key that unlocked all of this, the reason this is happening now, is the enterprise part. For years, the biggest barrier to this kind of AI adoption was security. No sane company was going to upload its entire customer list and sales data into a public model that could be used to train its competitors' AIs. ChatGPT Enterprise solves this. It creates a private, secure, single-tenant environment for each company. The data that goes in stays their data. The insights it generates are their insights. It's their own private brain, their own marketing superintelligence. This shift from broad-stroke segmentation to one-to-one hyper-personalization is the first, and arguably the most visible, shockwave hitting the American workplace. Marketing departments are being reshaped from content creators into AI orchestrators and brand strategists. The value isn't in writing 1,000 different ads anymore. It's in designing the systems that allow the AI to do it for you. But this revolution in understanding and communication isn't just being aimed at customers. The same incredible power is now being turned inward, and it's completely transforming how companies manage their most valuable asset, their own internal knowledge. Imagine every piece of information your company has ever created. Every single document, every spreadsheet, every presentation, every line of code, every Slack message, and every email. Now imagine it all piled into a single colossal digital mountain. Somewhere in that mountain is the one sentence you need to solve your current problem. The old way of finding it? You grab a shovel and start digging. You use a clunky search bar that works on keywords, not context. You find documents from 2012. You find a presentation by someone who left the company 5 years ago. You spend hours, sometimes days, hunting for a ghost. This is the reality for most American businesses. Their collective knowledge, their most precious intellectual asset, is trapped in 1,000 different digital silos, a graveyard of good ideas and critical data that's almost impossible to navigate. This isn't just inefficient. It's a catastrophic drain on productivity and innovation. But now that's all changing. This brings us to the second and arguably one of the most powerful ways ChatGPT Enterprise is revolutionizing the workplace. It is becoming the single, unified, intelligent brain for the entire organization. This isn't just a better search engine. A search engine finds documents that contain your keywords. ChatGPT Enterprise understands the content inside those documents. It reads, synthesizes, and connects information across your entire digital ecosystem. Your SharePoint, your Confluence, your Google Drive, your internal wikis, and it does so with complete, enterprise-grade security and privacy. None of this data is ever used to train OpenAI's public models. It remains your data, inside your digital walls, now supercharged with a conversational intelligence that can access it all. Let's make this real. Meet Sarah. She's a talented software engineer, and it's her first week at a Fortune 500 tech company. She's drowning. She needs to understand the company's specific coding standards, find the architectural diagram for the project she's been assigned, and figure out the multi-step process for getting security clearance to access the production database. In the old world, this is a nightmare. She feels like she's constantly bothering her manager with basic questions. She hesitates to interrupt the senior engineer who's deep in focus. She spends half her day on the company intranet, a digital labyrinth designed in the dark ages, clicking on broken links and reading outdated onboarding guides. Her first week, a time that should be about excitement and contribution, is instead filled with frustration and a creeping sense of imposter syndrome. She's not coding. She's just searching. Now let's put ChatGPT Enterprise on her desktop. It's her first day. Instead of a dozen confusing links, she has one chat window. She types, "I'm a new backend engineer on the Phoenix project. Can you give me a step-by-step guide to setting up my local development environment, a link to our team's official Python style guide, and summarize the project's goals for the current quarter?" Instantly, the AI responds, doesn't just give her links. It provides a numbered list of commands to run in her terminal, pulled directly from the most up-to-date engineering wiki. It provides a direct link to the style guide, and using its summarization power, pulls out the 3 most important rules new engineers often miss. And it synthesizes the latest quarterly planning documents and strategy PowerPoints into a concise, 3-paragraph summary of her project's mission. Sarah hasn't bothered a single person. She hasn't wasted a single hour. By lunchtime on her first day, her environment is set up, and she's already pushing her first small piece of code. Her ramp-up time has been cut from weeks to mere hours. The company isn't just paying for her to search, they're paying for her to engineer. This power extends far beyond onboarding. Consider the terrifying problem of brain drain. Every company has a Dave. Dave has been there for 25 years. He's the grizzled veteran who remembers why a certain piece of legacy code was written that specific weird way. He knows the unwritten rules, the historical context, the landmines to avoid. Dave's knowledge isn't in a manual. It's in his head. And next month, Dave is retiring. When Dave walks out the door, a library of institutional knowledge is walking out with him. 6 months later, a critical system he built starts throwing a bizarre error. The new team is lost. They search the wiki, but Dave never wrote this specific fix down. It was a one-off solution he implemented during a late-night crisis in 2017, something he explained once in a Slack channel that has since been archived. The company now faces a choice: spend weeks of engineering time trying to reverse engineer Dave's work, or face prolonged system downtime that could cost them millions. With ChatGPT Enterprise, this scenario becomes a relic of the past. The system has already ingested and indexed everything. The Slack archives, the old project management tickets, the code comments. The junior engineer on the team can now simply ask, what was the root cause of the database sync failure on the legacy payment processor in Q3 of 2017, and how was it resolved? The AI scans decades of data in seconds. It finds the exact Slack conversation. It finds the commit message from Dave in the code repository. It finds the follow-up email he sent to his manager. And it synthesizes it all into a perfect, actionable answer. The failure was caused by a server timeout issue during peak load. The issue was resolved by Dave Smith, who implemented a custom retry logic with an exponential backoff. Here is his explanation of the logic, and here is a direct link to the relevant lines of code he committed. Boom! Problem solved. The knowledge never left. Dave's expertise has been immortalized, transformed from a single point of failure into a permanent, queryable asset for the entire company. This is a fundamental shift in how we view corporate data. It's no longer a passive archive to be dug through. It is now an active, intelligent entity that you can converse with. A study by McKinsey found that the average knowledge worker spends nearly 20% of their workweek. That's 1 full day out of 5. Just looking for internal information or tracking down colleagues who can help with specific tasks. ChatGPT Enterprise is a direct assault on that number. It aims to get that 20% as close to zero as possible. Think of the compounding effect of giving back 1 day, a week to every knowledge worker in your company. That's not just an efficiency gain. It's an innovation explosion. It's the time your marketing team can now spend creating new campaigns instead of hunting for last year's brand guidelines. It's the time your legal team can spend on complex contract negotiations instead of searching for precedent in old case files. It's the time your leadership team can spend on strategy, because they can now ask questions that were previously impossible to answer without a dedicated team of analysts. A CEO can now ask, summarize all customer feedback from our support tickets in the last 6 months that mention our return policy, and cross-reference that with our internal finance reports on the cost of returns. What are the top 3 complaints and what was the financial impact? Getting that answer used to be a 2-week project involving multiple departments. Now it's a 5-second query. The speed at which businesses can learn from their own data is accelerating at a dizzying pace. It's about making smarter, faster, more informed decisions at every level of the organization. What we're witnessing is the birth of the corporate hive mind, a centralized intelligence that remembers everything, understands context, and can deliver the collective wisdom of the entire company to any employee instantly. But unlocking the knowledge a company already has is only the beginning. What happens when you point this incredible intelligence outward? What happens when you use it not just to understand what you've already done, but to create what you will do next? The same engine that can dissect an engineering wiki can also be used to generate entire marketing campaigns, write astonishingly good code, and even design new products. And this brings us to the second, and perhaps the most profound shift happening in American workplaces: the birth of the AI-augmented creative. For decades, the creative process inside a company has been a sacred, yet agonizingly slow ritual. Picture the classic scene: a marketing team huddled in a conference room. The whiteboard is a graveyard of half-erased ideas. Stacks of lukewarm coffee cups sit next to piles of competitor research. They're facing a deadline for a new product launch and they're stuck. The pressure is immense. They're trying to conjure lightning in a bottle, a campaign that's original, on-brand, and actually connects with an audience that's seen it all before. This is the grind. It's a process of brute force brainstorming, followed by weeks of back and forth with designers, copywriters, and legal, all before a single piece of content ever sees the light of day. It's a system built on human friction. Now let's replay that scene, but with ChatGPT Enterprise. The marketing director, Sarah, sits down at her desk. The pressure is still there, but the empty whiteboard is gone. Instead, she opens a custom GPT that her company has built. This isn't the public ChatGPT. This version has been securely trained on every successful marketing campaign her company has ever run. It knows their brand voice intimately, the exact words to use, the tone to strike, the humor to employ. It has ingested years of market research, customer personas, and sales data. It is, for all intents and purposes, the distilled essence of the company's marketing soul. Sarah types a prompt: "We are launching Evergreen, our new line of fully compostable coffee pots. Our target audience is environmentally conscious millennials and Gen Z in major US cities. They are skeptical of corporate greenwashing and value authenticity. Generate 10 distinct campaign concepts. Each concept needs a core slogan, a key visual idea, and a 100-word summary of the emotional hook." She hits enter. In less than 30 seconds, the screen fills, not with generic, soulless marketing speak, but with genuinely compelling ideas. One concept is called Your Morning Ritual: Planet's Revival, focusing on the seamless integration of sustainability into a daily habit. Another, more playful one, is Leave No Trace, Just Great Taste, with a visual concept of a beautiful, pristine forest floor where a coffee pod is visibly composting back into the earth. Sarah is no longer staring at a blank page. She's now a curator, a director. She sees the kernel of a brilliant idea in your morning ritual, plan its revival. She refines her prompt. Expand on concept number 3. Write a script for a 30-second social media video ad. The tone should be inspiring but down to earth. Show a diverse group of young professionals starting their day in different city apartments. The coffee pot should be the hero, but the real focus is the feeling of making a good choice without sacrificing quality. End with the tagline and our logo. Again, in seconds, a script appears. It's not just a script, it's a good one. It has shot descriptions, dialogue, and pacing notes. It's maybe 85% of the way there. Sarah, using her human expertise and intuition, spends the next 10 minutes tweaking the dialogue, adding a specific cultural reference she knows will land with her audience, and adjusting the final call to action. But here's where the enterprise part becomes a game changer. This isn't just Sarah's solo creative partner. She clicks a button and shares her entire chat session with David, the lead graphic designer. David can now see the entire creative journey, from the initial 10 concepts to the final script. He doesn't need a long-winded briefing meeting. The context is all there. David adds to the same conversation. He prompts the AI. Based on this final script and our company's visual identity guidelines, generate 3 distinct art direction mood boards. For each, describe the color palette, typography, and photography style. Board 1 should be warm and organic. Board 2 should be modern and minimalist. Board 3 should be vibrant and energetic. The AI delivers. It describes palettes of earthy tones, clean sans serif fonts, and imagery filled with natural light. It suggests specific photographers whose styles align with the concepts. David and Sarah can now have a high-level strategic conversation about which direction best serves the campaign, instead of wasting days trying to get on the same page. From a single prompt, they've gone from a vague idea to a fully fleshed-out campaign concept, complete with a script and art direction, in under an hour. Now they scale. Sarah's final prompt. Take the approved script and art direction. Generate 20 variations of ad copy for Instagram posts, Facebook ads, and TikTok captions. Tailor the language for each platform. Make some funny, some serious, and some focused on the technical details of the compostable material. Create 5 subject lines for our email newsletter announcement. Click. The work that would have taken a junior copywriter the rest of the week is done, instantly. This is the critical point that so many people miss. The fear is that AI is coming to replace creatives. The reality is that it's becoming the single greatest force multiplier for creativity in modern history. It doesn't replace the creative director. It gives them a team of 1,000 brilliant, tireless interns. It doesn't replace the writer. It murders writer's block and serves as the ultimate brainstorming partner. It automates the 80% of creative work that is often tedious and repetitive, the variations, the resizing, the reformatting, freeing up human minds to focus on the 20% that truly matters. The core idea, the strategy, the emotional nuance, and the final human touch of genius. The most valuable creative professional in the AI-augmented workplace is no longer the person who can grind out the most copy or design the most mock-ups. It's the person with the best taste. It's the person who can ask the right questions, who can guide the AI with insightful prompts, and who can spot the glimmer of brilliance in a sea of generated options and polish it into something extraordinary. The skill is shifting from pure execution to creative direction. And this creative engine isn't limited to marketing. Imagine an R&D team at an automotive company. They feed their custom GPT thousands of pages of customer feedback, safety reports, and articles on emerging battery technology. Their prompt, based on the most common complaints about EV charging anxiety and our patented battery chemistry, propose 5 innovative product features for our 2027 sedan that would make charging faster, more convenient, or less necessary. For each feature, provide a technical overview, a potential name, and a key benefit for the customer. The AI might suggest a limp home solar trickle charging roof, a network-integrated app that pre-books and pays for charging spots along a route, or a new battery conditioning software that dramatically improves cold weather performance. The engineers are no longer just solving problems. They are co-creating the future of their industry with an AI that has a near-perfect memory and an unparalleled ability to connect disparate pieces of information. It's the ultimate innovation partner. This is a fundamental rewiring of how value is created. It collapses the time between ideation and execution from months to minutes. It allows small teams to have the creative output of massive agencies. But while this generative power is reshaping how companies create products and talk to the outside world, an even bigger revolution is happening when this same intelligence is turned inward. What happens when AI isn't just writing ads, but is writing the very software that powers the business itself? The shift from creative co-pilot to something far more foundational is where the true disruption lies. This new reality is what we can call the internal innovation engine. For decades, the engine of most American companies has been powered by human capital, but it's always been throttled by a fundamental bottleneck: the speed at which ideas can be turned into functional tools. Every department, from finance to HR to marketing, has a list of if-onlys. If only we had a simple dashboard to track employee sentiment from survey data. If only we had a tool to automatically reconcile invoices with purchase orders. If only we could build a quick calculator to show potential clients their ROI in real time. Each of these if-onlys represents a tiny leak in the company's efficiency, a small friction point that, when multiplied across thousands of employees in thousands of days, becomes a massive drag on productivity. The traditional solution was to file a ticket with the IT department, and that ticket would join a queue, a digital breadline stretching months, sometimes years into the future. The IT team, already swamped with maintaining critical infrastructure, security patches, and massive enterprise-wide projects, would have to triage these requests. That simple dashboard for HR? It's a 2-month project for a developer who's already booked for the next 6. The cost-benefit analysis often just didn't add up, so the idea would die. The friction would remain, and in its place a dangerous phenomenon would emerge: shadow IT. Shadow IT is what happens when employees, frustrated by the official process, take matters into their own hands. That marketing manager who needs to merge data from 3 sources? She finds a clunky third-party web tool, uploads sensitive customer data to a server in a country she can't pronounce, and hopes for the best. The finance analyst who needs to automate a report? He writes a series of complex, brittle macros in an Excel spreadsheet that only he understands. If he leaves the company, the whole process breaks. This is a CIO's nightmare. It's a massive security risk, a compliance black hole, and a productivity time bomb. The company is bleeding efficiency and control, all because the barrier to creating custom, internal solutions is just too high. Enter ChatGPT Enterprise. This is where the second monumental shift occurs: the radical democratization of software development. It's not about turning everyone into a world-class programmer. It's about giving every smart, domain expert employee a powerful new partner. Think of it as giving every carpenter a nail gun. They still need to know how to build a house, but the speed at which they can frame it increases tenfold. Let's go back to that marketing manager. Now, instead of seeking out a shady web tool, she opens a secure, company-controlled ChatGPT Enterprise interface. She doesn't write code. She writes a request. A detailed, specific, plain English request. Create a Python application that securely accesses our Salesforce API, our Google Ads API, and our internal sales database using the approved authentication tokens. Pull the last 90 days of campaign spending, lead generation, and closed-won deal values. Join the data on the unique lead ID. Calculate the cost per lead and the return on ad spend for each campaign. Then, generate a report with a bar chart visualizing the ROAS by campaign and a table with the raw data. The application needs to be containerized using Docker so IT can easily deploy it. What happens next is the magic. The AI doesn't just give her a few snippets of code. It scaffolds the entire application. It writes the API connection logic. It handles the data manipulation. It generates the visualization code. It even writes the Docker file for deployment. It produces, in minutes, what would have taken a junior developer days or weeks to write from scratch. Now, this doesn't make the professional developer obsolete. It makes them superhuman. The role of the developer evolves from being a bricklayer to being an architect and a foreman. They're no longer spending 80% of their time on tedious boilerplate code. Instead, they take the AI-generated code as a starting point. They review it for security vulnerabilities. They optimize it for performance. They ensure it integrates perfectly with the company's existing systems and coding standards. They're doing the high-value, critical thinking work that only a human expert can do. The IT backlog doesn't just get shorter, it gets annihilated. The team's capacity explodes. Consider a real-world scenario. A mid-sized American manufacturing company has a complex supply chain. For years, they struggled with predicting inventory needs. Over-ordering meant capital was tied up in warehouses. Under-ordering meant production lines would halt, costing millions. They knew they needed a custom predictive model, but the quotes from data science consulting firms were astronomical, well into the six figures. It was a classic too expensive to fix problem. Using ChatGPT Enterprise, one of their own business analysts, a person who understood the business intimately but had only basic Python skills, was paired with a single senior data scientist. The analyst described the problem to the AI. We have historical sales data, supplier lead times, raw material costs, and seasonality trends. Build us a time series forecasting model, using profit to predict the demand for our top 50 components for the next 12 weeks. The AI generated the foundational code. The data scientist then worked with the AI as a collaborator, prompting it to refine the model, test different parameters, and add features to account for holidays and known supplier shutdowns. In 3 weeks, they had a working, highly accurate predictive model integrated into their ERP system. A project that was once financially impossible was now a reality, built in-house, for a fraction of the cost and in record time. The impact was immediate. A 20% reduction in excess inventory and a near elimination of production stoppages due to part shortages. That is the power of this internal engine. It unlocks innovation that was previously trapped behind a wall of cost and complexity. This shift changes the entire metabolism of a company. The cycle of identifying a problem, designing a solution, and deploying a tool shrinks from months to days. This creates a culture of continuous improvement, not as a corporate buzzword, but as a daily reality. An HR team can build a tool to analyze exit interview transcripts for recurring themes. The legal team can create an app to scan contracts for non-standard clauses. The facilities department can build a dashboard to optimize energy consumption across their buildings. Each of these small, custom-built solutions acts like a compound interest deposit into the company's efficiency account. The agility gained is a profound competitive advantage. While competitors are stuck in committee meetings debating the budget for a new software project, a company armed with this capability has already built, tested, and deployed 3 different solutions. But this revolution in building tools and software is only half the story. The true endgame is when this intelligence is applied not just to creating new things, but to understanding everything that already exists. What happens when every document, every email, every meeting transcript, every customer support ticket in your company's history becomes part of a single, searchable, intelligent mind? What happens is you solve one of the most expensive, invisible, and debilitating problems in modern American business: corporate amnesia. You create a single source of truth, an institutional memory that never gets sick, never forgets, and never quits. You create the corporate brain. Think about how a typical company operates today. It's not a single organism. It's a collection of isolated islands. The marketing department has its knowledge locked away in Google Drive and HubSpot. The engineering team's wisdom is buried in Jira tickets and GitHub comments. The sales team's insights live in thousands of individual Salesforce records and private email threads. And the most valuable knowledge of all? The context, the nuance, the why behind the decisions? That's stored in the wetware of your employees. People who will eventually leave, taking that priceless institutional knowledge with them. This is the brain drain that keeps CEOs up at night. Every time an experienced employee walks out the door, a piece of the company's memory, a part of its soul walks out with them. The company is left a little bit dumber. For decades, we've tried to fight this. We built clunky intranets and SharePoint sites that became digital graveyards, filled with outdated documents nobody could find. We bought expensive enterprise search tools that were great at finding keywords but terrible at finding answers. They could tell you that the word Project Titan appeared in 5,382 documents, but they couldn't tell you what Project Titan was, why it failed, and what the key lesson was that you absolutely must not forget for your new project launching next quarter. We were trying to solve a problem of understanding with a tool built for indexing. It was like trying to understand a library by just reading the card catalog. ChatGPT Enterprise changes the game entirely. It's not another search bar. It's a comprehension engine. It securely connects to all of those data islands, your Microsoft 365, your Google Workspace, your Slack, your Salesforce, and it doesn't just index them. It reads them. It understands them. It synthesizes them. It builds a knowledge graph, a mental model of your entire company's collective intelligence. It learns who the experts are on which topics by analyzing their communications. It understands the sentiment of customer feedback. It can trace the evolution of an idea from a casual Slack message to a formal project plan to a final board presentation. All of this is done within your company's own secure digital walls. The model is trained on your data, for your use only. It's your private, proprietary corporate mind. So what does this actually look like in practice? Let's take a new product manager. Let's call her Jessica. She's just joined a large consumer electronics company. On day one, in the old world, she'd be handed a laptop and a list of people to schedule 30-minute introductory calls with. She'd spend the next 6 weeks trying to piece together the company's history, bugging senior colleagues with basic questions, and feeling like she's drinking from a fire hose. In a company with a ChatGPT Enterprise-powered corporate brain, her day one is completely different. She sits down and opens a chat window. She asks, "I'm the new PM for the Odyssey smart speaker line. Give me a one-page executive summary of the product's history, its target demographic, the top 3 feature requests from the last year, and a list of the key engineers and marketers I should connect with." 30 seconds later, she has it. A perfectly written, comprehensive brief, complete with links to the source documents for every claim it makes. She can then drill down. You mentioned the top feature request was multi-room audio. Summarize the technical feasibility study engineering did on this last quarter. Boom, there's the summary. What were the main marketing objections the sales team reported from our retail partners about the last product launch? Boom, a bulleted list of key feedback, synthesized from hundreds of Salesforce call logs. In a single afternoon, Jessica has acquired the foundational knowledge that would have taken her 2 months to gather. She's not just up to speed. She's already a strategic contributor. Or imagine a more complex scenario. A manufacturing firm is considering acquiring a smaller competitor. This is a massive, high-stakes decision. The M&A team needs to understand everything. They can now ask the corporate brain questions that were previously impossible to answer. Analyze all communications and financial reports from the last 5 years related to our supply chain vulnerabilities in Southeast Asia. Cross-reference this with the target company's supplier list and our internal risk assessments from Project Evergreen in 2021. Generate a report on the potential synergies and risks of integrating their supply chain with ours, and flag any compliance issues noted by our legal team in past quarterly reviews. Before, this would have been the work of a dozen analysts for a month. It would have involved manually digging through emails, spreadsheets, and legal documents across multiple departments. The risk of missing a critical piece of information, that one forgotten email from a legal counsel 3 years ago, was enormous. Now the answer is comprehensive, synthesized, and available in minutes. The quality and speed of strategic decision-making takes a quantum leap forward. But perhaps the most profound impact is on mitigating that catastrophic brain drain. Let's say a senior software engineer, the only person who truly understands the company's legacy payment processing system, resigns. In the past, this was a 5-alarm fire. A frantic scramble to download everything from his brain in a 2-week exit interview process. Now it's still a loss, but it's not a catastrophe. The corporate brain has been learning from him for years. It has ingested every line of code he's committed, every piece of documentation he's written, every technical question he's answered in the company's Slack channels. A junior engineer can now ask, "The payment gateway is throwing a kernel error 501. Walk me through the troubleshooting process for this specific error, based on all available documentation and past incidents resolved by the previous system owner." The AI can generate a detailed, step-by-step guide, citing specific code snippets and linking to the exact conversations where this was discussed before. The knowledge hasn't left the building. It has been absorbed, cataloged, and made accessible to the next generation. The ghost of that expertise still walks the digital halls. This is more than just efficiency. This is resilience. It's the creation of a learning organization in the truest sense of the word. Every project, successful or not, becomes a permanent lesson. Every customer interaction becomes a data point in a constantly evolving model of the market. The company stops repeating its mistakes because its memory is now perfect. The barrier to entry for new employees to become effective is radically lowered, democratizing opportunity and accelerating innovation. So companies now have a perfect memory, an infallible historian that knows everything they've ever done and why they did it. But what happens when that historian becomes a co-pilot? When it stops just telling you about the past and starts actively helping you build the future, writing the code, and designing the products right alongside you. That's where this revolution gets truly personal. And this brings us to the fourth, and perhaps most profound transformation happening inside American companies: hyper-personalized skill augmentation. Think about that term for a second. It's not just training. It's not just tools. It's augmentation, like a bionic arm for your brain, tailored to your exact specifications. For decades, the model for corporate software was one size fits all. Here's the spreadsheet program. Here's the design software. Here's the communication platform. Everyone gets the same box, the same features, the same steep learning curve. The onus was on you, the employee, to adapt to the tool. But ChatGPT Enterprise completely flips that script. The tool now adapts to the employee. Let's make this real. Imagine a junior software developer. Let's call her Maria. She's brilliant, fresh out of college, but she doesn't know the company's massive, decades-old code base. It's a labyrinth of specific protocols and unwritten rules. In the old model, Maria would spend her first 6 months feeling lost, constantly bothering senior developers with basic questions, terrified of breaking something. Her primary tool is a code editor that just tells her when her syntax is wrong. It's a critic, not a coach. Now give Maria a co-pilot powered by ChatGPT Enterprise, one that has securely and privately ingested the company's entire codebase, all its documentation, and every best practice guide. She's working on a new feature and writes a function. Instead of just getting a cryptic error message, her AI copilot chimes in conversationally. It says, "Hey Maria, that function will work, but it's about 30% less efficient than our standard data fetch protocol, which was optimized for this database. Also, you forgot to include the mandatory security check that's required for all customer-facing code. Here's a revised version that incorporates those best practices." And if you're curious, here's a link to the internal wiki page from 2019 where the lead architect explained why we built the data fetch protocol this way. Do you see the difference? It's night and day. The tool didn't just fix her code, it taught her, it mentored her, it gave her the historical context. It accelerated her integration into the company from 6 months to 6 weeks. It augmented her existing talent by filling in the specific gaps in her knowledge instantly. She's not just a better coder. She's a better company coder, and she got there at 10 times the speed. The company isn't just getting code, it's getting a more capable, more confident developer. Now let's move from a junior employee to a senior one. Meet David, a 20-year veteran vice president of sales. David is a master negotiator. He can read a room, build relationships, and close massive deals. He's an artist, but he's not a data scientist. He looks at a 50-page quarterly analytics report filled with charts and regression models, and his eyes glaze over. Historically, he'd have to book a meeting with the data analytics team, wait 3 days for them to be free, and then try to translate his sales instincts into their data speak. With his own personalized co-pilot, David's workflow changes entirely. He opens the report and simply asks his AI in plain English, "I'm meeting with the board tomorrow. I need the 3 biggest takeaways from this report for the Northeast Territory. What were our biggest wins? Where are we most at risk of losing market share? And which product line shows the most potential for growth in Q4? Summarize it in 5 bullet points, and give me one powerful customer testimonial from that region that I can use to illustrate our success." The tone needs to be confident but realistic. Within seconds, he gets a perfect, concise summary. The AI has augmented his core skill. It didn't replace his sales acumen. It supercharged it by translating a world he's weak in, dense data, into a world he commands, strategic insights, and compelling narratives. He walks into that board meeting more prepared, more confident, and with a deeper understanding of his own business than ever before. His decades of experience are now fused with the power of instant data analysis. This is the essence of hyper-personalized augmentation. It identifies the specific friction points in each employee's day and provides a tailored solution. For Maria, the friction was a lack of institutional knowledge. For David, it was a lack of data fluency. For a lawyer, it might be the drudgery of contract review. For a marketer, it might be writer's block when creating ad copy. ChatGPT Enterprise acts like a universal adapter, plugging into each person's unique set of skills and weaknesses. This shatters the old model of corporate training. Why send your entire sales team to a generic, 3-day seminar on data analysis when you can give each of them a personal data analyst that lives in their computer and speaks their language? Why run company-wide workshops on new software when the software itself can teach each user how to use it in the context of their own projects? The learning is no longer a separate, scheduled event. It is continuous, on-demand, and perfectly integrated into the workflow. It's the end of one-size-fits-all training and the dawn of just-in-time, just-for-me skill enhancement. Now, a common fear arises here. Does this make us dumber? If the AI is always there to help, will our own skills atrophy? It's a fair question, but it fundamentally misunderstands the goal. Think of an airline pilot. Modern airliners have incredibly sophisticated autopilots that can handle most of the flight. Does this make the pilot a worse flyer? No. It reallocates their cognitive load. Instead of focusing on manually keeping the wings level for 6 hours, the pilot is freed up to manage the complex systems, monitor weather patterns, communicate with air traffic control, and plan for contingencies. They've been elevated from a manual operator to a strategic systems manager. That is exactly what's happening in the workplace. The AI co-pilot handles the tedious, the repetitive, the knowledge recall tasks. This frees up the human employee to focus on what humans do best: strategic thinking, creative problem solving, ethical judgment, and building relationships. David, the sales VP, isn't dekilled because he didn't manually create the pivot table. He is upskilled because he can now devote all of his brainpower to crafting a winning strategy based on the insights that table provided. This creates a new working paradigm called human in the loop. The AI is not a replacement. It is a force multiplier. It generates the draft, the analysis, the summary, the code, but the human provides the final review, the critical insight, the strategic direction, the spark of true creativity. It's a partnership where 1 + 1 = 10. This individual augmentation is revolutionary on its own. But what happens when you take these newly superpowered individuals and put them back into their teams? What happens when the co-pilots don't just talk to their individual human, but start talking to each other? That's when we move from personal efficiency to something far, far bigger: the birth of the intelligent enterprise. This brings us to the fourth and perhaps most profound way ChatGPT Enterprise is changing everything: the creation of the corporate hive mind. For decades, the holy grail of business has been to break down silos. Every CEO in America has stood on a stage and talked about wanting more collaboration, more cross-functional synergy. We bought the software. We bought Slack, we bought Teams, we bought Asana, we bought Salesforce. And what happened? We just created more, slightly better organized silos. The marketing team still doesn't really know what the engineering team is struggling with. The sales team's frontline insights die in a CRM field that a product manager might see 3 months later, if they're lucky. Knowledge, the most valuable asset a company has, is trapped. It's locked in individual brains, in forgotten email threads, in the transcripts of 1,000 different Zoom calls. We have more data than ever, but less collective wisdom. ChatGPT Enterprise changes the fundamental physics of this problem. It's not another tool for humans to talk to each other. It's a network for the company's knowledge to talk to itself. Imagine this. Let's take a company we'll call Verve, a direct-to-consumer athletic apparel brand. They just launched a new high-tech running shoe. Maria, a customer service rep in Boise, is handling a support ticket. A customer is complaining that the sole of the shoe is showing unusual wear after just 50 miles in a very specific, cold and wet climate, say Seattle in November. In the old world, Maria logs the ticket, goes into a queue. It gets a tag, product quality. It becomes one of 1,000 data points. Maybe, just maybe, if 100 other people from Seattle complain, an analyst will spot a trend a quarter later. But in a Verve powered by ChatGPT Enterprise, something different happens. Maria's AI co-pilot, which has been trained securely on all of Verve's internal data, recognizes the novelty and specificity of this complaint. It's not just another shoe wore out ticket. The AI understands the material science documents from the R&D team. It has access to the manufacturing batch data from the factory in Vietnam, and it's seen the marketing materials that promise durability in all conditions. It instantly cross-references this single ticket with 3 other, less clear complaints that mention chipping or peeling soles. It also scans weather pattern data for the Pacific Northwest. Within seconds, the AI flags a potential correlation. A specific batch of adhesive used in production might be underperforming in sustained, low-temperature, high-humidity environments. Now here's the magic. It doesn't just send an alert to a giant, ignored dashboard. It communicates directly with the AI co-pilot assigned to Liam, a materials engineer in Boston. But it doesn't speak in customer service language. It translates. The message Liam's co-pilot delivers isn't "a customer is mad." It's a fully formed hypothesis. Potential adhesive delamination issue identified in batch 7B92, correlated with environmental conditions below 40 degrees Fahrenheit and above 85% humidity. Recommend immediate stress test simulating Pacific Northwest winter conditions. Initial failure probability estimated at 0.5% of units, with potential brand reputation impact. Liam gets this alert before he's even finished his morning coffee. What used to be a 6-month data archaeology project to uncover a hidden problem now happens in near real time. The company isn't just reacting anymore. It's becoming precognitive. The departmental walls between Maria in customer service and Liam in R&D haven't just been broken down. They've become completely irrelevant. The AI agents are acting as universal translators and connectors, weaving together the disparate threads of the organization into a single intelligent tapestry. This is the hive mind. It's the collective intelligence of every employee, every document, and every customer interaction, awakened and put to work. It's the company's central nervous system finally coming online. And because this is an enterprise-grade system, that nervous system is entirely self-contained and secure. Verve's proprietary materials science data isn't being used to train a public model. Their customer list isn't being uploaded to the cloud for anyone to see. The hive mind is theirs, and theirs alone, a powerful private competitive advantage. It's an engine for institutional learning that runs at the speed of light, turning every mistake, every complaint, and every small success into immediate, actionable wisdom for the entire organization. This isn't just about making individual employees more productive. This is about making the entire company smarter, faster, and more adaptive than was ever humanly possible. But the implications are even bigger than that. What happens when this incredibly powerful self-aware internal brain, this hive mind that understands its own products, processes, and people with perfect clarity, turns its attention outward? What happens when it starts talking not just to the company's employees, but to its customers? This is where we see the final and most radical transformation. It's the culmination of everything we've talked about. The personal productivity gains, the automated workflows, the creative co-pilots, and the internal hive mind, they all converge on a single point: the customer experience. This takes us to the fifth way ChatGPT Enterprise is changing American workplaces. The dawn of true one-to-one hyper-personalization at scale. For years, personalization has been a marketing buzzword. It meant putting a customer's first name in an email subject line. It meant a recommendation engine showing you another thriller because you watched one last week. It was clumsy, it was superficial, and we all knew it. We were being segmented into broad demographic buckets. Males 18 to 34, interested in video games, and treated as a monolith. The intelligent enterprise changes that forever. Let's go back to Verve, our athletic apparel company, and let's think about a customer named Alex. The old Verve knows a few things about Alex. He bought a pair of running shoes 6 months ago. He lives in Denver. He opened 3 of the last 5 marketing emails. The new AI-powered Verve knows Alex. It knows him because its hive mind has connected all the dots. It knows he bought the Trail Dominator X model. It knows from his support chat history, handled by a custom AI bot, that he asked about ankle support for rocky terrain. It knows from publicly available data that he signed up for a 50K ultramarathon in Moab, Utah. It knows from the product data that the specific shoes he bought have a higher than average wear rate on sandstone surfaces, like the ones in Moab. So what happens? The old Verve would have sent Alex a generic email blast. 20% off all new arrivals. The new Verve crafts an experience that feels like it was made by someone who has been Alex's personal running coach for years. A week before his race, Alex doesn't get a sales email. He gets a notification from the Verve app. The message, generated by the AI, says, "Hey Alex, looks like your big race in Moab is coming up. We've analyzed the terrain data for the course in your Trail Dominator X's. For optimal grip and durability on that specific type of slick rock, we recommend adjusting your lacing technique to the heel lock method. Here's a 30-second video showing you how. Good luck, we're rooting for you." That's it. No sales pitch. Just pure, unadulterated value. The company used its vast internal knowledge not to sell him something, but to help him succeed. It anticipated a need he didn't even know he had. Now, when Alex's shoes do eventually wear out, who is he going to buy from? The company that spammed him with discounts? Or the company that acted as his trusted partner? This isn't just marketing. This is relationship building, automated and scaled to millions of individual customers. It's a shift from transactional to relational, from broadcasting to narrowcasting, from selling products to providing solutions. It's a world where every single customer can feel like they are the only customer. And this brings us to the fourth seismic shift, one that moves beyond optimizing the present and starts actively building the future. I'm talking about the supercharging of research and development. For decades, R&D has been the engine of corporate growth, but it's often been a slow, grinding, and incredibly expensive engine. Think about it. The traditional process involves brilliant, dedicated scientists and engineers spending months, sometimes years buried in academic journals, patent filings, and internal reports, just to get to the starting line. They're trying to connect the dots between thousands of disparate pieces of information, looking for that one tiny, overlooked clue that could lead to a breakthrough. It's a process fraught with dead ends, failed experiments, and a colossal amount of wasted resources. It's like trying to find a single sentence in a library of a million books by reading every single book cover to cover. Now, imagine giving that library a single, unified consciousness, a mind that has read every book, every page, every footnote, and understands the connections between them all. That is what ChatGPT Enterprise is becoming for R&D departments. It's not just a search tool, it's a synthesis engine. A pharmaceutical company can feed it decades of clinical trial data, chemical compound research, and published papers on cellular biology. Then, a researcher can ask a question not of a database, but of the collective knowledge itself. Based on the molecular structure of drug X and the known protein folding issues in disease Y, what are the 10 most promising unconventional avenues for a new therapeutic agent that have never been explored in existing literature? The AI can cross-reference billions of data points in seconds. It can spot correlations across disciplines that no human team, no matter how brilliant, could ever be expected to find. It might connect a finding from marine biology with a problem in materials science to suggest a new kind of biodegradable polymer. It can analyze thousands of failed experiments and identify the subtle, underlying variable that caused them all to fail, saving a company millions of dollars and years of fruitless research. This transforms the role of the researcher. They are no longer a data miner, painstakingly chipping away at a mountain of information. They become a trailblazer, an explorer, standing on a peak with a map of the entire landscape laid out before them, able to see all possible paths and choose the most promising one to investigate. It accelerates the pace of discovery from a crawl to a sprint. We're not just talking about making better widgets. We're talking about accelerating the discovery of new medicines, creating more sustainable materials, and solving engineering problems that have stumped us for generations. The innovation cycle, which used to be measured in years or even decades, is being compressed into months or weeks. And that leads us to the fifth and perhaps most profound transformation, because it's not about a specific department or a single task. It's about the fundamental redefinition of the American worker. For years, the narrative around AI has been one of fear, of replacement. The robots are coming for our jobs. But what's actually happening in companies deploying these enterprise-grade tools is far more nuanced, and frankly, far more interesting. It's not about human versus machine. It's about the birth of the centaur workforce. The term centaur was famously coined by chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov. After his historic loss to IBM's Deep Blue computer, he realized that the future wasn't about humans competing against AI. He discovered that a decent human player paired with a decent chess program could beat even the most powerful supercomputer in the world. This hybrid intelligence, part human intuition and strategy, part machine calculation and brute force, was superior to either one alone. That is precisely the model that is emerging in the American workplace. The most valuable employee of the next decade will not be the person who can write the most code, draft the most reports, or analyze the most data. The AI can do that. The most valuable employee will be the one who can best partner with the AI. Their primary skill will shift from execution to direction. Their value will be measured not by the answers they produce, but by the quality of the questions they ask. Think of a senior marketing director. In the past, she might have spent 60% of her time managing the execution of a campaign, overseeing copywriters, briefing designers, analyzing performance dashboards. Now, with ChatGPT Enterprise, she can say, "We're a B2B software company launching a new cybersecurity product for the financial sector. Our target audience is Chief Information Security Officers at mid-sized banks. Generate 5 complete, distinct marketing campaign concepts. For each, provide the core messaging, key visuals, a 12-month content calendar, draft ad copy for LinkedIn, and a script for a 90-second launch video. Analyze the top 3 competing products and highlight our key differentiators in the messaging. Use a tone that is authoritative but not alarmist." In minutes, she has what would have previously taken a team of 10 people 2 weeks to produce. But her job isn't done. In fact, the most important part of her job has just begun. Her role is now one of a critic, a curator, and a strategist. She evaluates the 5 concepts. Concept A is too generic. Concept B's tone is off. But Concept C is brilliant. It has an angle no one on her team had thought of. She then uses her experience, her intuition, her understanding of the customer, to refine it. She tells the AI, take Concept C. Let's lean into the digital vault metaphor. Make the language more concise. Rewrite the video script to open with a more compelling, real-world anecdote about a recent data breach. And generate a list of 20 potential titles for a white paper based on this theme. She is the centaur. Her human experience is guiding the immense computational power of the machine. The AI handles the how, freeing her up to focus exclusively on the what and the why. This dynamic is repeating itself across every single role. The financial analyst is no longer just building spreadsheet models. They're asking the AI to model a dozen complex economic scenarios, and then using their judgment to advise leadership on the most probable outcome. The lawyer isn't just drafting contracts. They're asking the AI to analyze 10,000 previous contracts to identify non-standard clauses that represent the highest risk, and then using their legal expertise to negotiate those specific points. This creates a massive shift in what we consider to be a valuable professional skill. Rote memorization is obsolete. Task execution is becoming a commodity. The new premium skills are critical thinking, creative problem framing, and ethical judgment. Your ability to prompt, to question, to doubt, to refine, and to steer the AI becomes your primary economic value. It's a world where the person who can ask the most beautiful question is more valuable than the person who knows all the answers. This isn't about replacing humans. It's about augmenting them, elevating them out of the weeds of tedious execution, and allowing them to operate at a permanent, sustained level of high-level strategy and creativity. It's a fundamental change in the texture and meaning of what it means to work. And that leads us to the fifth and arguably the most seismic shift of all, the complete re-architecting of career paths and the very definition of corporate value. For decades, the American workplace has operated on a relatively simple premise. You acquire knowledge, you apply that knowledge, and you climb a ladder based on your experience and expertise. You become the go-to person for a specific domain. You are the human database. ChatGPT Enterprise doesn't just challenge that model. It shatters it. Why would a company pay a premium for an employee to spend 3 days hunting down and compiling a market analysis report when an AI can do a more comprehensive version in 3 minutes? Why would the junior analyst's primary role be data cleaning and spreadsheet jockeying when the AI can ingest, clean, and visualize a million rows of data before the human has even finished their morning coffee? The traditional entry-level and mid-level roles, which have long been the training grounds for future leaders, are being fundamentally hollowed out. Their core function, the aggregation and basic synthesis of information, is now an automated commodity. This isn't the death of the corporate ladder. It's the transformation of it from a rigid ladder into a dynamic lattice. The new currency of advancement is no longer just what you know. It's your ability to ask the right questions. Your value is no longer defined by your access to information, but by your ability to direct an infinitely knowledgeable, infinitely fast intelligence to solve novel problems. The most valuable employee in 2025 and beyond will not be the one with the most encyclopedic knowledge, but the one with the most profound curiosity and the sharpest critical thinking. They are the prompt engineers of strategy, the architects of inquiry. Think about it. The skills that are hardest to automate are suddenly the most valuable. Strategic intuition, the ability to connect disparate ideas from different domains, empathy and leadership in client management, the creative courage to propose a wild left-field idea that the AI, trained on the past, could never conceive of on its own. These soft skills that were often seen as secondary to hard technical expertise are now becoming the absolute core of human value in the enterprise. ChatGPT Enterprise handles the what and the how. The human's role is elevated to the why and the what if. This creates a fascinating new dynamic in American companies. We're seeing the emergence of what you might call the AI-augmented executive at all levels. A 25-year-old marketing coordinator, armed with ChatGPT Enterprise, can now generate and test campaign ideas with the sophistication of a seasoned chief marketing officer from a decade ago. They can analyze customer sentiment data, draft 50 different ad copy variations, simulate A/B test results, and present a data-backed strategic proposal in a single afternoon. Their role is no longer about execution. It's about taste, judgment, and strategic direction. They are a manager, and their direct report is a superintelligent AI. This flattens hierarchies and accelerates talent in ways we've never seen before. The person who can best leverage the tool, regardless of age or tenure, becomes the most powerful person in the room. Of course, this raises an uncomfortable but necessary question. What happens to everyone else? What happens to the people whose careers were built on the very tasks that are now being automated? The fear of job displacement is real, and it would be naive to ignore it. History, however, offers a powerful lesson. The invention of the tractor didn't just eliminate a million farmhand jobs. It created the foundation for entirely new industries in manufacturing, logistics, and technology that we couldn't have imagined. The word processor didn't just replace the typing pool. It democratized content creation and enabled the digital communication revolution. This transition is no different, but it's happening at a speed that is utterly breathtaking. The challenge for the American workforce isn't a fight against the machine. It's a race to adapt. It's a collective, urgent need to upskill and reskill, moving from routine cognitive tasks to roles centered on creativity, collaboration, and critical oversight. Companies that succeed will be the ones who invest heavily in this human transition, who see AI not as a tool for cutting headcount, but as a lever for elevating their entire workforce's capabilities. They will be the ones who train their people not just on how to use the software, but how to think alongside the software. We are at an inflection point. The integration of platforms like ChatGPT Enterprise is not just another software update. It is a fundamental rewiring of the corporate brain. It is the equivalent of introducing a nervous system into an organism that previously ran on disconnected, individual cells. The potential for exponential growth in productivity, innovation, and problem-solving is staggering. Companies that embrace this will gain an almost insurmountable competitive advantage. They will be able to learn faster, create faster, and adapt to market changes at a speed their competitors simply cannot match. The gap between the AI-enabled and the AI-ignorant will become a chasm, and it will happen faster than any technological shift in modern history. So, as we look at these 5 key changes, the hyper-personalization of internal communication, the democratization of data science, the supercharging of code and IT, the industrialization of creative content, and the re-architecting of career paths, we see a single unifying thread. This technology is a mirror. It reflects our own intelligence back at us, but amplified and accelerated. And in doing so, it forces us to confront what truly makes us valuable. For a century, we have trained people to work like machines, to be consistent, to be precise, to be repositories of facts. We built an entire economic and educational system around that ideal. Now, for the first time, we have machines that are infinitely better at being machines than we ever could be. And that is a terrifying prospect, but it is also a profoundly liberating one. Frees us. It frees us from the drudgery, the repetition, the cognitive grunt work that has consumed so much of human potential for so long. It gives us permission, and indeed creates an economic imperative, to focus on the things that are innately, irreducibly human. To be more curious, more creative, more empathetic, more strategic. The future of work isn't about being faster than a machine. The future of work is about being more human than a machine has ever allowed us to be. The question every American worker, from the mailroom to the boardroom, needs to be asking themselves right now is not, will this AI take my job? But rather, how will I use this AI to redefine my job, to amplify my humanity, and to create value in a way that only a human can? The answers to that question will define the next chapter of the American workplace, and indeed, the future of work itself.